The topic I'm choosing today is one that won't be a surprise to so many of you who, over the years, have asked me, well, who do you find inspiration from in the civil rights movement? Well, of course, I celebrate, along with the rest of America, Martin Luther King Jr., I celebrate John Lewis. I celebrate Jesse Jackson for his two historic runs, trailblazing runs, as a candidate for the office of President of the United States. And so saddened to have him and so many other trailblazers leaving, and knowing that that oral history may not be preserved, but there is a story that for me, ever since I studied history, majored in history in undergrad, and graduated magna cum laude in history from Harvard University, I have been inspired by the story of James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, three volunteer civil rights workers who participated in 1964 with the Mississippi Freedom Summer movement, which was inspired by the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, and SNCC to encourage mostly young people. There were over 900 college students from all around the country who came along with these three. Um, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that there were about 250 clergy members, about 50 medical professionals, and about 159 lawyers. In that group of about 1,500 total volunteers who came that summer to join together as a unit, working to help Black Mississippians help themselves to escape Jim Crow and the disenfranchisement that had gone on in Mississippi ever since the 1890 Mississippi Constitution, new Constitution, was formed in the wake of the Civil Rights Amendments, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, as a way to preserve white supremacy in Mississippi and avoid the participation of all people, uh, Black and white, and all in the structure and governance of the state of Mississippi. So they came together that summer in mostly in a place called Meridian, Mississippi. But the sacrifice they made with their lives was came about on June 21st, 1964. And they came together as strangers, but they died as brothers. And just a little bit about them before I just get to the uh, probably well known or familiar ending of this story, and just give you a little background about who these three heroic men were. James Chaney, a Black young man, 20 years old, the son of Fannie Lee, uh, and Ben Chaney. He was raised in Catholic school and did not go on to college, but became a construction apprentice, masonry, a bricklayer. But he had participated in the 1961 freedom rides and other civil rights movements that put his life at risk. So this was a man of great courage coming into this movement. He knew what danger was. The other two, Andrew Goodman, was someone who was a writer. He actually wrote a poem that was subsequently published. His mother was someone who had taught him from an early age don't quote me on this. Her name was either Nancy or Carolyn, and she was a part of the labor movement and had taught her son through example how important it was to bring together people in a unified way to fight against their exclusion from participation in governance. And so he had participated in desegregation movements around the country and had been organizing alongside his mother before he got to Mississippi. And then Michael Mickey Schwerner, the son of Nathan, and I believe his mother's name was Anne. Um, but again, the details I will leave for you to research. And he had gone to Michigan State University, Cornell, and ended up at Columbia and was studying sociology, anthropology when he came as a leader, assigned by, recruited um, by some of the leaders of SNCC, like James Moses and even John Lewis, helped to put him in a leadership role in this Mississippi Freedom Summer. So they were coming from different backgrounds. Two Jewish young men and a black Catholic school graduate went out in rural Mississippi to investigate why the church where they had held a organizing rally shortly before their date of death had been burned. And what they didn't know is that there was a plot already afoot. They were being watched from the time they entered Mississippi because there was this belief that Mississippi was going to be overwhelmed by 30,000, as many as 30,000 communist rabble rousers from the north and west, and that the good old system was going to be overrun by all of these outsiders, agitators. And so they had been watched, and the burning of that church, it's suspected, was actually done intentionally to lure them out of safety and get them out in Neshoba County, Mississippi. And once there, they were followed from the church by a sheriff of the county who was a KKK member, like most of the people involved in this. And they were stopped, and one was taken to jail for speeding, and the other two for observation, but they were let go about the time that the KKK had a mob that could follow them, uh, take them out in the woods, and they were shot point blank range by several of the KKK members that came together. So, in real time, their bodies were not found for several months after the June murder in the backwoods, and their bodies were laid in an earthen dam. But they were found about August of 1964, and when the state of Mississippi refused at that time to actually pursue any justice on their behalf, the FBI, which was a very different organization than the one we see today when um, Preddy and Good could be shot down and murdered and no investigation, but at least back then there was an FBI that intervened in situations like this, and they investigations happened, but no prosecutions occurred until almost 40 years later, because information was, of course, not forthcoming. immediately, but in 2005, there was a conviction of the man who planned these murders, Mr. Killen, and he was convicted of 3 counts of manslaughter, sentenced to 60 years, and he actually died around 2018 in jail. Interestingly, about Mr. Killen, like so many other members of the KKK in Mississippi at the time, they were, for all appearances, upstanding citizens. And Mr. Killen was a Baptist minister. As mentioned, several others were law enforcement officers, including the sheriff of Neshobe County. So um, there were a total of 18 indicted, nearly 40 years after the tragedy. And I believe there were 7 to 9 convictions, other than Mr. Killen, who got the 60-year life sentence with the possibility of parole in 20 years, which he did not get. Most of them were 3 to 4 year sentences, and many of them were paroled and got out. So, what do I find so inspirational about this particular story? It's just the fact that in a world that was so divided at the time by uh, race, racial differences, and lack of understanding, these 3 young men put aside their lives um, and unselfishly went to help others. Somewhere in the good book, as we call it, the Bible, it says, there is no greater love than a friend who would lay down his life for a friend. And these 3 effectively laid down their lives for people that they really didn't even know in any friendly or familial way, but the disenfranchised Mississippi voters who needed assistance helping themselves got that help from uh, James Chaney, a black man, a Mason, raised in Catholic school, Andrew Goodman, the son of a labor organizer, a Jewish man, and Michael Mickey Schwerner, a Jewish man also, both from New York City, who came down to a place that they were unfamiliar with, did not know, had no direct connection with, other than recognizing that there was injustice and people who needed their help. And they were willing to interrupt their lives and ultimately pay the ultimate sacrifice in order to try to see justice come about. So, all of the current youth and young people's movements around the country really have to look back to this 1964 movement as the trailblazer and showing you not only how to do it, how to organize, strategically organize, and come together, but also how to be prepared, if necessary, to make the ultimate sacrifice in the face of justice. I don't know how many people can actually make themselves ready for that sacrifice, but I ultimately encourage all of you to read their stories. And as I have encouraged nephews and nieces in the past, I encourage you, if you'd never turned in that essay about what their lives and what their sacrifice and what the Mississippi Freedom Movement and the Freedom School movement means to you, and how it is an example of unity for me, but it may be something else for you. Please write that essay, and I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel. It'll effectively be my second, video of this type. So I've got a long way to go, maybe. And leave your essay in the comments. I will read every one of them, whether I know you or I don't know you. If I don't know you, you will be adopted into my family of nephews and nieces, and I will enjoy and be inspired by your take, which may be very different from my take.